down to fifth place. We'll see after.
I watched, I don't know, I got through cookies.
Well, wait until I start baking for the holidays. I will bring them with me.
But I get through
I will bring cookies.
cakes maybe.
Do you have a go-to cookie, like like this is my best offering?
No, I make 12 different types of cookies and like many dozen of each.
All at the same time?
Yeah, all.
Do you do a peanut butter? What do you think is your best?
Are you going to go to the youth student representative thing?
Yeah, I want to. I have a fitness assessment that morning, but it's pretty early.
We're live?
Yeah, they're kind of like little
Thank you.
All right, is everybody ready?
No.
Ready?
I need to
All
get a
right.
shortbread recipe.
Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, November 14th, 2024 regular meeting of the school committee. We will be having an executive session as well at the end of the meeting, but for now, I would invite those in the audience to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome to everybody, and for those who are here in the studio, just want to remind everybody that we are not only being broadcast by HCAM, but we are also being recorded so that people may watch it at another time as well. So our first item is public comment. I don't know if, I know you guys are here for other stuff, but I don't know if you wanted to make a public comment as well.
Let me see if I can.
All right, then that moves us into recognitions. Are there any recognitions that anybody has that they would like to share?
I can't read that, Barbie.
Okay, then that moves us into reports, and Savannah, you are up.
To start off, we had
was
homecoming
robot.
on the 26th of October, and we had a lot of volunteers from the underclassmen grades help give out the neon bracelets and sell tickets at the door. The student council did a great job setting up the athletic center that day, and we had a pretty good turnout at homecoming, and a lot of people stayed till the very end and offered to help clean up, which made it nice and fast. We also celebrated Halloween on the 31st and the participation from teachers that Wednesday. So the science department in particular did their annual collaboration with the Serenity House, and they raised over $600 to make and distribute blankets for everyone that needed one. The Spanish department decorated their wing with an ofrenda and other things to celebrate Dia de los Muertos. And this was planned and put together by the Spanish Club, who is working towards becoming an honor society in the second semester. Finally, we had senior Halloween, and in Flex Block, all the seniors went down to the athletic center, and they showed off their costumes, and awards were given out. And I believe both HCAM and HHS TV did coverage of that, if you guys want to see my costume. Next, I wanted to mention athletics because fall sports just finished up in all of their playoffs. So the girls' field hockey team and volleyball team made it the farthest to the Elite Eight, and the girls' soccer team went to the round of 16. I believe that football and cross country are the only teams that are still practicing because we have the Thanksgiving game coming up, which is at home this year. That's exciting. And cross country is training for all states. Fall playoffs also means that preseason for winter sports is approaching. So winter sports and captains are starting to plan preseason, and some of the captains' practices have started. The night of the 5th from 7 to 9, Mr. Simos and Mr. Mulvey from the history department held an election night watch party for their government and law classes and anyone else who wanted to join. The school provided pizza, and students got to watch CNN in one room and Fox News in the other. We also hosted our own student election and discussed the data of those results in the next class. Over the course of the year, and particularly now, something that the staff has pushed and the students at HHS have understood and respected is civil discourse. The days following the election results, HHS maintained a respectful environment and understood the value of being sensitive to everyone's emotions, as well as seeking and being open to opportunities to talk about it. I personally have found a lot of value in the Socratic seminars that we do in class, not only politics-wise, but in general, I think they provide great insight to other perspectives and the opportunity for civil arguments that don't disrupt the peacefulness of the classroom. This week during Flex Block, juniors have been doing junior seminar and continue their conversation to get ready for senior year and post-secondary plans. This includes standardized testing, creating a Common App login, and creating a list of colleges if applicable. Some of the events that HHS students are continuing to work towards are the school play and the girls' football game. The school play will occur on Friday the 22nd and the following weekend, and the girls' or the school, yeah, and the girls' football game is set for the following Monday on the 25th. So all the kids who are in the school play get to be in the football game this year, which they didn't get to do last year, which is really exciting.
What's the school play?
I think it's the Addams Family.
Yeah, it's musical, right?
Yeah, I'm really excited because it hasn't been a musical in a long time. That's
When was the date for girls' football again?
the 25th, Monday. Yeah, show up, guys.
Halloween costume.
I was Theodore from Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh,
We bought
right.
microphones that had like voice changing things, and then I brought a huge thing of cheese balls to school. It was empty by the time I
I
left.
was going to ask, how many did you bring home?
Yeah,
None.
none.
That's great. Other questions?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead.
Did you have some kind of recording device that did Dave Seville's Theodore?
Unfortunately, no, but I have that on record at home.
That's great.
Oh my God, I'm
The
gonna
fall
run
play
into Christmas.
is
Christmas.
running 2 weekends, is that right?
Just the Friday, Saturday, Sunday
Okay.
on the 22nd. Yeah,
Okay, gotcha. All right. Thank you.
no problem.
That's great. All right, that moves us into the construction update.
Thank you. So I'd like to run through both the Hopkins construction and where we stand with Charleswood. So this is the project dashboard for Hopkins. Running through quickly, there's been no safety issues. The project is still on schedule with final completion ready for students, aimed for August 21st of 2026. The budget is on track, on budget. We have spent 86% of that, our commitments to date. No quality issues. We will be starting to procure the technology package that is necessary for the building, and there have been no issues. Again, as a reminder, what the construction site looks like. You can see in yellow the existing school and play area. The gray is the driveway and the parking loop. The green is the geothermal well field. The new building site is in brown, and the construction trailers have been relocated, which are over here in the green. They were in Lot K. They now are within the construction fence, and Lot K will be used for contractor parking for the duration of the project.
Can I just say that men that are working on the project are lovely. I run around there in the morning, and they're very courteous and very nice to everybody, making sure everybody's safe. And
Thank you, that's very good to hear.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So looking at some of the pictures, which is always exciting, this first picture on the left is the grouting of the geothermal wells. So you can see the grouting around the piping that extends out of the ground. Of course, in New England, there is ledge removal that goes on around the geothermal well field. These are the trenches that will carry the vertical supply and return for the geothermal that will go from the well field to the building. You can see also the foundation walls being formed in this picture. These are your foundation walls and some backfilling that was starting to take place. This picture shows the damp proofing of the foundation. You can see the black, and then again, the backfilling with stone around that foundation. And this first picture gives you a sense of the building in relation to the existing building as well. So again, progress this month. The geothermal well drilling has been completed. The flushing and pressure testing is taking place. The well grouting has been completed. The trenching and piping for the vertical installation for the system is ongoing. Ledge hammering and removal is still ongoing. Again, the supply and return piping installation is in progress. The footings and foundation walls have been completed. The trailers, again, have been relocated. For next month, there will be more ledge removal and trenching, finishing the supply and return piping, completing the damp proofing at the foundation walls and backfilling and beginning the underground MEP, which is the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing installation that's not related to the geothermal well. In terms of change orders, you can see that at this time that has no effect. So looking at the budget, the architect's budget, at this point, we have spent 2.2 million, which is 64% of the contract. The owner's project manager, the OPM, spent 489,000, which is 24% of the contract value. And the construction contract has spent 2.2 million, which is 6% of that contract value. Moving into Charleswood, we've completed 60% construction documents that have been submitted to the MSBA. They have achieved both the Planning Board and Conservation Commission approval. There was a geothermal test well that was completed in October. And the MEPA SEIR, which is the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act Statement of Environmental Impact Report, which is a mandatory requirement for the MSBA. So that was submitted on October 15th, expecting certification back. And at this time, we are not being reimbursed by the MSBA pending certification for the MEPA process, and then that reimbursement will begin. The project right now is trending 1.2 million under budget as of the October estimates. The next major milestones, the general contractor and subcontractor pre-qualification process will take place, similar to what we did, what you heard for the Hopkins project. Concom will have a public hearing on the street improvements, and there's a possibility that some of that needs to go to the select board for approval as well. The final estimate at 90% construction documents will happen in January of '25, with bidding documents to go out in March and April of '25. Looking to award a construction contract in May of '25. So looking at the two projects' schedule overlaid together, you can see the Charleswood project brings us out open to students in the first quarter of 2028, which is out here in the green. You can see the building construction in the red, which spans from the end of the second quarter of '25 to the beginning of the fourth quarter in '27. And then overlaid again with Hopkins, the building addition will go through the first quarter of '26, and that is the addition. And then you can see the different renovations, the summer of '25 renovation and the summer of '26 renovation. The building addition will be open to students at the end of the first quarter in '26, and then the full building will be open at the end of the third quarter of '26. So this just gives you kind of a relative visual of where the two building projects line up. And again, the last piece for Hopkins is relocating those modulars from the Elmwood School, which you can see down here in the red happens after Charleswood would be open to the students.
Quarter one is start of the school year, is that how?
Quarter one is calendar.
Oh, it's calendar.
Yeah.
So is it
We
correct?
operate on a fiscal year, but
Okay.
the rest of the world operates on a calendar year.
Right.
Is it correct that, like June of 2025 will be groundbreaking?
For
Charleswood.
Charleswood,
Since
yes.
Okay.
So the students will be moving in to Charleswood in January of 2028?
The actual, it's open to students. when we do that transition has not been decided.
Okay.
Meaning that just means the building is ready for students.
Question about the $1.2 million under budget, because that always sounds like good news. Is that taking into account not only the timeline, but also the amount that's completed on the project? Do you know what I mean? Like, isn't it apples to apples comparison? Or are there things that haven't been done that would have been projected to have been done?
Well, this is Charleswood.
Sorry, I'm still back on Hopkins, yes.
Oh, okay. So you're looking at,
The
you're
1.2
looking at what has been done, what has been estimated.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Is this the timeline that we always had heard? Or is the timeline shifted at all?
This is the timeline that has always been public.
All right. If there are no other questions or comments, I will, we can move on to the superintendent's report. Okay.
There we go. All right, so thank you. This is the superintendent's report for November 14th, 2024. And all I have for you tonight is just a little smattering of the Professional Development Day. So while all of our kids are at home, you're probably wondering, what are the teachers and paraprofessionals and administrators doing in the Hopkinton Public Schools? We can just give you a little glimpse into that. And thank you to Mr. Lebrad, who really is in charge of arranging this day. And I think what we tried to do this year was to make sure that people were kind of immersing themselves in things that were really close to their discipline or the kind of work that they are most likely to do in the Hopkinton Public Schools. So the first slide that you see there are our music educators, and they went off to the LSDO, and I think that that is Learning for Staff Development Opportunities. And it looks like they engaged in a lot of music making, and I think probably a lot of fun. Our visual arts teachers, so these are both K-12 groups, they went to the Danforth Museum at Framingham State University, and then it was very nice because you could see pictures also that I'm not posting, where they talked about how they would modify the kinds of instruction that they do for ESOL students, students on IEPs, and to sort of grow their cultural proficiency. This was a really nice day for them. Our BTE folks, Business Technology and Engineering, led by Doug Scott, they went off to MIT. Our guidance counselors, behind the scenes, they actually establish relationships with all of the area colleges. So when we have a student who's looking to go to one of those schools, we kind of had a connection there. Looking at these photos, it was kind of fun. If they weren't standing in front of the college sign, it was almost like a Where's Waldo opportunity. So in the upper left, they're at Mass Maritime, if you can't tell by the great big ship in the background. Our K-5 teachers, they spent some time on literacy, and then the other half of their day was given to new science curriculum. So you can see that in the center on the bottom left photo, they are seated in a circle, and they are practicing what we will expect our K-5 kids do, something called science talks. And it's pretty amazing when you can actually see 6-year-old children talk about science in ways that are inquiry-based. And then on the right-hand side, you can see some of our teachers, and they had made oobleck, and then the question was, is it a liquid or a solid?
What is oobleck?
Cornstarch and water.
Thank you very much.
Kind of really gucky, kind of, when you touch it.
English teachers don't make those kinds
They
of
do
things.
not.
We make word salad.
Because there's a book that accompanies it, a Dr. Seuss book.
Every time we make it,
Oh.
the book
Like,
appears.
so your English teachers could very
Oh,
well-
really? It just,
That's why
Out
it's
of the
called
oobleck.
that, yeah.
I should make some.
Yeah.
Get a copy of the book.
All right, our paraprofessionals, and I think they were our B paras and C paras, they were part of a book study. And the book was entitled Lost at School. And then in the right-hand photo that is very large, the middle school folks did a whole series of sort of literacy-based things. So in the morning, they got refamiliarized with Star Record Book, and they did look at both ELA scores and math scores. We're really being very careful to progress monitor this year our students that we think are not performing at grade level, so that we're measuring the interventions that we're trying. However, in this particular photograph, Julie Mattson, who is the 6 to 8 literacy director, is talking to all of our disciplines about doing instructional read-alouds. So really, how do you kind of mimic for kids what would be going on in your brain while you were reading a particular passage? So it kind of grows their reading skills because you're modeling that for them. And we do that in science, social studies, math, ELA, we do it across the board. We had a session entitled Where Cognitive Science, Neuroscience, and Reading Meet. That on the right is Beth Callahan, and on the left is Sherry Kent. She's our new K-5 ELA director. And they spent a lot of time thinking about how reading takes place in the brain and then how that translates to what happens in the classroom. And those are the ones that I'm showing you. I will tell you that Mr. LeBrod and I did a riveting inquiry-based social studies
If we do say so ourselves.
presentation with the grade 4 and 5 teachers, really unpacking those social studies standards in the afternoon. So overall, it was a super great day. The high school teachers were like really drilling down into data by department. And I met with Sarah Ellum, who is the English department chair or the subject matter leader for ELA this morning. And we got to see her data as well as the math data. We had a math team group yesterday, and Carla Crisafulli, who is the math department chair at the high school, is really showing us, how growth looks in particular courses. And when you take a look at a course and you see that the growth is pretty consistently low, what we're thinking that across the board is that rigor in that classroom could be raised. We actually have a foundations class, and in that foundations class, there are 7 students, and they are struggling learners. And when we looked at their SGP scores, they started at 58 and went all the way to 98. So if those kids are landing in the almost 60th to 100th, sort of percentile, or 99th percentile, those kids are doing amazing work in that class. So it really gives us a sense of, if you weren't had great growth, is it because we are missing a particular thing, or is it because we need to bring up the rigor in the entire course? So great work all around on the PD day, and I think that you guys probably enjoyed your day away.
Thoroughly enjoyed my day off.
I'm glad to hear that. Wonderful.
Right. Any questions? All right, that moves us then into the school committee chair report. Payroll warrants S25009 and S2426V have been approved. Warrants 25-033S, 25-034S, 25-035S, and 25-036S, and 25-038S. They're all included in the folder. Are there liaison reports that people have to share?
I have a question. The Marathon Fund, there was a letter, is that me?
I do believe that is you.
I think that is, I thought that we didn't have,
They haven't met yet.
Yeah.
We saw that, and
so I wrote down the date, so.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Turf committee, we met 2 weeks ago, and then had a follow-up meeting with Ricky and John to discuss some plans to try and generate additional revenue with the turf fields, all the fields. The field 3, I think it's the stadium field,
Football, yeah.
is the football
Right.
field. I think it's
Field three is-
field 3. That needs a new track. They want to turf it. And there was, Ricky had a good idea to try and leverage a relationship with the VAA and some of the sponsors of the marathon to do some fundraising, and then also try and figure out ways, again, to maximize the use of the fields when the schools and the town internal program isn't using it, to generate revenue to then cover upkeep of the fields. They have a plan in place, and it was a productive meeting, and it's the first meeting I had been to, and there's 2 a year, so I'll report back in the spring what's happening. But I think there's a good plan in place, and I think Ricky is on top of trying to figure out how to get more use out of the fields, upkeep, pay for the upkeep, and give the schools more time on the field, as well as some of the town programming as well. So
So the Hopkinton Running Club does a workout in the track every Tuesday morning at
Yeah.
6 a.m. They could be a good partnership
Okay, yeah.
as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll pass that along to Ricky. Yeah, it's a little unique that Parks and Rec and if I get this right, the school have some oversight together. The high school's in charge of the fields behind the high school. Do I have that correct? And then Town and Rec also has some oversight of trying to rent those and working together. And there's some discussion about using a platform so that everyone, Town and Rec and the school, can see who's on them, when's it open, can we start renting those out more, and trying to generate additional revenue. So I thought it was a productive meeting, and keep everyone posted.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Anybody else? I know.
There's an LPAC meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning. I've been in touch with Jen Suker about that. I'm not able to attend because it conflicts with another meeting I have to attend, but it's happening. And then the next Youth Commission meeting happens the same night as the Wizards game that I'm taking my kids to. But I might be able to call in for half an hour, but I'm in touch with Don Alcott for any of those updates.
When is the Youth Commission meeting?
It is.
And do you want somebody to try to cover in your place?
Sure. The 20th, it's next week, Wednesday, at 6:30. It's a virtual.
Is there anybody that has availability? We can discuss offline.
Sorry, what night?
That the Wednesday at 6:30.
Wednesday, the 20th. Same time as the Wizards game if you're going. The Harlem Wizards. It's like the book.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was thinking, I don't follow NBA. I
No,
don't
it's
think-
a fun,
And I'm thinking Washington Wizards.
and it's a
no?
great fundraiser for the PTO.
Oh, okay. Where is it?
It's at the
The high school.
high school.
Oh, okay.
High school. It's really fun. You should come. Or you should go to the Youth Commission.
I may be out of town, so I don't. That's okay. Yeah.
All right. That, then, if there are no other liaison reports, moves us into Susan, if you want to introduce the yearly update, CPAC.
Yes. Several years ago, there was some acrimony between CPAC and the committee, a lot of misunderstandings. So studies were done and agreements were reached, and twice a year, CPAC comes and sits down and discusses with us what's going on and what needs to be improved and how things are operating. And as the liaison, my role is to be present at CPAC meetings and events in order to provide you guys with information and to get a sense of the quality of the interactions. And so tonight, Jen Halliday, Chairman of CPAC, the Special Education Parents Advisory Committee, and her merry band of warriors. I know Erica. I'm not sure. Melissa, okay. And you have enough name cards? Okay, we got our name cards. Okay, Melissa's got one? Good.
That's great.
How did your presentations in Canada go, Nova Scotia, Jen?
They went quite good. Oh, I guess I have to be connected to the internet.
We see it.
That's right.
There, it's up.
Yeah, it's up.
Blake TV?
I don't think you need to, it's showing.
It won't,
It's showing, yes.
it's,
It's
but
up.
it's small, it's not,
You have to
oh,
do
I can't
slideshow
click
mode, yeah.
slideshow because it won't connect.
Going to be clicked. Oh,
It's
okay.
Robot B9.
What's that?
The Wi-Fi.
If you guys want to slide your nameplates out a little and angle them, it will be helpful for
This way?
any news media. Yeah, I was just thinking people watching, if they wanted to quote you guys or something.
Robot B9, I believe, and then the
Oh,
password.
okay.
Well, they're trying to get in.
The password.
Jen was asked
Can
to
you see
present
that Wi-Fi paper. If you can.
a very, to present in Nova Scotia for teachers on interactions with parents and special education students. And I think I reported back that I sat through her practice presentation and it was outstanding. So I think she was warmly received up there, even though it was cold.
It went very
I-
good, yes. And I wasn't there as an officer of CPAC, I was there
There
just
is-
as a parent. You know, here's what life is like and constructive feedback for teachers of what parents would like them to know. About
That's
what it's
awesome.
like to have a child with special needs.
I had heard you were doing that, and I was not able to go to the practice, but I know that you're a wonderful presenter, so I'm sure that it went.
I
Oh,
think,
yes, and I love it so much.
You always say that, but you do a nice
You're-
job.
You're stalling and you're keeping me up here. for
Sorry,
longer.
don't,
just as an aside, I think that HCAM should have you present that. That I think there would be a lot of people in the community who might be interested. I don't know if you would be interested in sharing it that wide of an audience.
I would do it in person, but I don't know if I would want it recorded. Mostly because I'm talking about my kids.
Yeah,
And there's videos too.
and it gets
some-
out, yeah.
Yeah, I
No.
don't know if I'd feel super.
Yeah, I
but
didn't think about
I'd
that,
be more
but-
than happy if you felt it would be a benefit.
I
happy
think it
to
would be a
present it.
tremendous benefit.
welcome.
Hi. Good evening. I'd like to thank the school committee for offering us a chance to speak tonight regarding Hopkinton CPAC. CPAC is your Special Education Parents Advisory Council. My name is Jen Halliday. I'm the CPAC chair. With me tonight is Melissa Shearer, our CPAC vice chair, as well as Erica Siekel, our events coordinator. Tonight we'd like to cover a few things. Firstly, I would like to introduce you to our 6-member board. And then we'll talk about our vision, community outreach efforts, and finish with our next steps towards the future as a board. So our CPAC is a wonderful group of individuals who each bring something different to the table. From left to right is me, Jen, I'm the chair, and outside of that, I'm a retired orthotist and the mother of 2 high schoolers. My oldest is now a senior. He's on an IEP and he attends the High Needs Learning Center at Hopkinton High School. I'm also the liaison to the 18 to 22 program. Next is Melissa, our vice chair. She's an attorney and a 15-year resident of Hopkinton, as well as a mom to a middle schooler and a high schooler. Melissa is liaison to the middle school, right?
Looks like she's also a parent to 2 dogs.
Yes,
Yes, that's right.
2 very loud dogs. Next is Nicole LeBlanc, our secretary. Nicole thought she could take a break from us, but it turns out she just couldn't quit us. We actually had to have her come out of retirement to help us out because one of our board members moved out of state. So Nicole is the mom of 1, and he attends Hopkins School, and she's also the liaison at Hopkins. And on the bottom row, we've got Karen Lamb, our education chair. Karen recently moved back to Massachusetts from Singapore and dove in with both feet to make Hopkinton a better place for kids. She's a digital strategist and has 1 daughter whom she refers to as Neurospicy. Karen is the liaison to the high school. Next, we have Erica, everyone's favorite rockstar events coordinator. She's a pharmacist and a care partner to 2 kids, one of whom is a medically complex kindergartner who attends the Education Collaborative. Erica is the liaison to Marathon School. And lastly, but not leastly, we have Megan O'Boyle, our media coordinator, and she's a mom of 3. She works in information security and is a self-declared playground expert, which is great because she was able to represent families as a member of the Accessible Playground Committee. Megan also is a liaison of Elmwood School. So each of us brings specific and complementary abilities to the table, and it makes CPAC what it is. So the vision of CPAC, being a parent is hard, and add to that being the parent of a child or children with special needs, it adds a whole new layer of challenges. Like you planned your trip to Italy and you ended up in Holland. You need a whole new guidebook and you need support from people who have been there. Navigating the school system for our children can be overwhelming, and getting the right support can often be frustrating. That's why CPAC is here. And what helped me the most as a parent of a child with a disability were the connections that I made with other moms and dads who were experiencing similar struggles. People who I could lean on to ask questions, to talk about the real parts of parenting that often is too difficult or uncomfortable to talk to parents of typical kids. You know, parents, you can share anything without feeling that you're being judged for your parenting, like, oh, my kid ate a paperclip today or whatever. A common feeling for parents of disabled kids is a feeling of isolation. So my social connections with parents who get it, it's more effective than therapy for me, and I consider my role in CPAC as an important job. I don't want other families to feel alone as they navigate the world for their children. So our aim with CPAC is to create a safe space for parents in a casual setting where parents can relax and share their stories, the good and the bad, with other parents without judgment. Hopkinton CPAC is like a family ready to cheer one another on through the ups and downs of life. What exactly is the CPAC? CPAC is different from other parent-led groups like the PTO. Every public school system in the Commonwealth is required by law to have a CPAC. We're a state-mandated partner of the district. CPAC represents families of children on IEPs and 504s in Hopkinton, and as of today, the numbers are, if I stand corrected, 602 children on IEPs, 212 on 504s, 34 out-of-district placements, and we're representing basically 14% of the student population. So the mission of CPAC, we have 4 tentacles. Bring together the parents and the school administration to provide direct input on all matters related to the education and safety of students with disabilities. Deepen the trust between parents and administration by collaborating together on solutions. Provide workshops, resources, and a supportive network to empower parents to become effective advocates for their children. And lastly, develop a sense of community and inclusion for all parents and children with special needs in the town of Hopkinton. So now I'm going to hand it over to Melissa, and she'll tell you some of the great things that we've been up to.
Okay, so I get to do the fun part, talk about the events that we've done, which are in a large part due to our Rockstar event coordinator, Erica, next to me here. So she really is the force behind those in a lot of ways, but everyone contributes. So our events are the monthly coffee chats. They're hosted at the Hopkinton Public Library. We often do have guest speakers, but it's a really lovely way to connect families and to have those families with kids who are in IEPs and 504s in different schools kind of connect and be a community and get support that way and navigate some of the common issues that parents face. And sort of outside of the, having the kids there, sort of in an adult but casual setting. And it's actually how I found CPAC. It's really great support for parents. We also, I think it was this first time we did it, right? The first day of school breakfast. That was an amazing opportunity, again, sort of for the families to get together. Summer is hard for all parents, right? Having the kids home and unstructured time is often really hard, especially for kids with special needs. So it's a long haul, and we sort of celebrated that by bringing the community together, having a breakfast. We did one at the Spoon, and then the other one was at the library for just pre-K families, I believe. So, and it was really well attended, really supportive, and great for the families that came. another way to help connect everyone. We also have our seasonal and holiday family events that are hosted at Marathon, and those have grown a lot this past year. Really well attended. Ice cream social was fun. We have our fall festival that we just had. It was really beautiful day outside, lots of families. Also really important for the kiddos to connect and be together as well. We had some older kids helping out with the younger kids too, so it was a really great opportunity in that way too. We have our Beers and Tears at Startline Brewery. So again, just a very appropriate name, I think sometimes, but also just a really fun way for everyone to connect, and especially for those parents that aren't available during the day when we have the coffee meetups at the library. They can come in the evening after work and sort of again connect with the parents in their community. And we have coming up our Snowman Saturday, which again is a really fun seasonal event, bringing together families and kids in the community in a really just fun and supportive manner where everyone can kind of just be themselves and connect and have fun. And we do also provide an opportunity for educational seminars, co-sponsored educational seminars. We have Student Services 101, FCSN Basic Rights Workshop. We have one of those coming up in November. Understanding the new IEP, which I think is going to be really important for a lot of families in January 14th. And another important thing for special education parents, and all parents really at this time, bullying, what parents need to know, February 11th. So we do connect people in an educational format as well, and provide community outreach, which is really fun as well. We had involvement in Pride Day. You can see that fun picture there, Jen. Extended school year picnic, which is really well attended and a great opportunity. Hopkinton Family Day, which is an awesome event that we take part in, have a booth at as well. CPAC. We're at all the fall back to school nights, providing answers to questions that parents might have about CPAC and how to get involved, and connecting parents in that way, which I think is really important at the start of the school years in each school. We have the Unified Basketball banner raising, and I was really sorry to miss that one, but that was an awesome event that we had here recently. Really, really great and supportive for our athletes. Hopkinton Playground Committee we're involved in. We had a submission at, and there's Emma. That's a really cute picture. That's Erica's daughter.
It's an adaptive swing.
It's an adaptive swing, and you can see just like how happy and how much joy that brings to be in that. And then we had this awesome submission for Art in the Trail by Nicole, our secretary. And I wish I could speak a little more intelligently about it, but it basically is just like about the heart and soul. It's just really artistic sort of representation of people with disabilities and neurodiversity that she submitted. And then we have the CPAC Little Library, which is such a great thing that we installed at the Marathon school. Basically, it's a free little library that it's going to have resources for the community, for parents on neurodiversity, mental health issues, just all sorts of resources like that that people can sort of trade and have. And yeah, it's a great. I don't know where we're passing off here, the future.
Yeah,
Did I go into your area? Sorry there. So I'll
No,
pass.
it's
Just on a roll
perfect.
there because those are all fun things, but Erica?
Well, thanks, Melissa. So I'm just going to talk about future development. So in the future, we are planning a peer-to-peer mentorship program. This is geared towards older students as an opportunity to connect students with similar experiences and build community. In the future, we're also looking to see increased participation from school committee in collaborating on addressing concerns of CPAC, data requests, copies of consultant reports related to special education to support the MGL mandated role of CPAC. We're also interested in budget previews regarding special education so we can utilize our reach to support positive reception of information among our membership. So switching gears now, we are very excited to announce Project SHARK this year. So SHARK is an acronym for CPAC Helps Add Resources for Kids. So what is Project SHARK? We have asked our special educators and related service providers to make a wish list of items that would be helpful in their work with students with special needs. So examples of these items could be therapy supplies, items for the classroom, equipment for learning ADLs, so that's activities of daily life. So this is similar to how a PTO provides additional education items or supplies that transcend the school's operating budget. So what is our goal with this? Our goal is to support our educators in the amazing work they do every day with students with special needs and disabilities. We also hope to promote awareness as well, to put a spotlight on special education, the phenomenal work of our educators, and the different needs of students with disabilities. So we are collecting wish list items in 2 ways. We are using Amazon.com wish list. You can find our registry by searching Hopkinton CPAC. It's live right now. And we also have a donation list for gently used items that we're accepting. We're just starting this project right now, and we do hope that many families participate. So next steps, we will continue to partner with school committee and Hopkinton Public School Administration to improve communication and rebuild trust. We will continue to reach out to families and find out how to best support them. And we will also identify systemic challenges, because more feedback translates to better coordinated work in our partnerships. And so that takes us to the last slide. We're happy to take any questions at this time. And for those tuning in at home, we can be reached at cpachopkinton@gmail.com or on Facebook, and we also have a website. Thank you for having us today.
Jen, could you go back a couple slides on Erica's forward, a couple where things that you would like to see more from the school committee on? How can we go about helping you with those things?
I don't think we need, we are, anytime we've asked for something in the, near days, we've gotten what we need.
Okay.
So just when we reach out, that we get an answer, basically.
Okay. You would also like us to be able to preview to you what we're looking at in terms of budget on
Yeah.
special education.
It's nice to have a heads up, even the day before it hits the papers, kind of thing, just to,
Absolutely.
especially if it's something where there usually is an explanation behind, decisions and things like that, and it gives us a little bit of time to workshop how to talk to the community about it.
Yeah, because I think that the connection between CPAC and school committee, and I'm not sure that I always am serving as the pipeline. So anything I need to be doing better, I would
Oh, no,
like
we
you to.
definitely, and we have our meetings every month too, right? And that's,
Right.
Everything's been going great
Okay,
with the meetings, so I feel
'Cause
like
that's
the
part of what-
communication is there.
okay.
Yeah,
Because that's part of what this is supposed to do, is to make sure that if there are rough edges, they get smoothed out and everything, so.
and technically you guys should know before, it shouldn't come as a surprise when we're here. We would have already discussed any issues
Yes,
before getting to the
Right.
podium.
I have a small question. The gently used donation, where does that list physically exist?
So we're rolling out with the project very soon. We're going to email that
Okay.
out. We'll probably post that on Facebook and on our
Yeah, yeah.
website as well.
That's great. And I
so-
love the Amazon wish list.
Yep, so that'll be specific also to each school too, because,
Yep.
for different ages and stuff, so.
Yeah, and this isn't something we're just doing for a month or two. This is gonna be an ongoing, drive to get, and it's not stuff the teachers need to have, it's kind of like a want to have.
Be nice to have.
Wouldn't
yeah.
it be nice if we had this in the classroom, So, and a lot of times we know teachers buy stuff for their classrooms out of their own pocket money. So we just wanna help a little bit.
Yeah.
And when you think of teachers of typical classes, it's a lot more students. A special education teacher might not have so many students as a full classroom, but they probably work twice as hard. So they don't get the recognition, Christmas time, end of the year, that sort of thing. They don't get recognized the same as a typical classroom teacher would.
I think it's great, and I think a lot of people would want to be supportive of that. I think even parents who have, like, would see teachers that had worked with their kids in prior years that would want to be supportive, that.
And there's lots of kids who aren't necessarily on an IEP that might work with some of the professionals. You know, they might work with a speech therapist for a short time if they need to have help pronouncing a sound, you know. So these people affect all the kids in the classroom. And I often will tell people, your kid can't learn if my kid's at the back of the class ripping the posters off the wall. So the work that these people do, it affects every student in the school district. So we just want to make sure that they're recognized, and we'll focus on each month. We might focus on one specific department. Oh, did you know that we had this in the school? You know, for myself, we didn't even know really what a nurse did until this year. We had some medical issues, and now my son goes to the nurse every day, but before then, we went through, 13 years of school, and the only time was one time Dee lost a tooth, and he came home with a little treasure chest. Oh, yeah. That's the only time we had any interaction with the school nurse. So it's amazing, and you don't realize how important they are until you actually need them. So we want to make sure that we focus on parts of the school that people might not know about but are very important.
That's great. I will look for that on social media and try to share it as much as I can in my.
Please, thank you. I appreciate that.
Where at Marathon is the little library if people wanted to go look for
In
books?
behind, you have to go all the way into
By the
where
playground.
where
Oh, by the playground.
The K1
Okay.
playground.
Yeah.
It's right next to the buddy bench.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but it can be moved. We designed it with that purpose, that it could be put on a dolly and moved to other places.
It will never be in the way.
It'll never be in the way, yes, exactly. So, and if we find that it's not getting a lot of traffic there, we might move it to another spot. But for now, it seems to be pretty good.
How do you determine traffic?
By
How many books are
are
missing?
still-
How many minutes? Yeah.
You have a camera on it, right?
Yes, we do. We have several cameras on.
Teasing.
I pulled up the wish list, and I just want to note that there are items that are like as low as like $3 and up. So I love that it's a really accessible way for parents and families to support the work of our educators. I know that like every classroom
easier
my
we can
kids have
make
been
it.
in, we will send things in from a wish list, and our special educators don't always have that option to reach the parents so easily. What would you say your % increase in event attendance has been over the last, like compared to a year ago and compared to 2 years ago?
I would say it's double
Yeah, it's
of what
I
it
don't
was
know if I could
last
put a
year.
number to it, but we ran out of pumpkins at the fall festival,
It was very well attended.
and
And we had how many pumpkins?
we had many, almost 100. I don't know if people, they were small pumpkins. I don't know if some people took more than one, but I felt bad because we didn't have enough. But now we will be prepared going forward. So
over 100 pumpkins worth of attendees, and I didn't let my kids take pumpkins because like we're gonna get our own, like we don't need to use.
Now, who has
pumpkins
the
too.
backyard to be growing next year's miniature pumpkins?
You'd have one shriveled up one if it was me.
Anyone else? So appreciate you guys coming out.
Thanks for having
thanks
us.
for
And
having
thanks
us.
for
Thank
putting
you.
us towards the beginning, because it does, we have kids with a pretty strict bedtime routine.
I completely understand that.
No, appreciate it.
It's nice to see you guys.
Nice
We'll
to
look
see you as
forward
well.
to-
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Will do. Shower and a tube feed it.
Oh,
It's all over, isn't it? Isn't it? Oh, it is. That's okay. The next is a paraprofessional request for Elmwood, and I would invite Mrs. Hanscom up to discuss that.
Hello.
Hello.
speaking of the devil.
I know, right? Thanks, Susan.
You're most welcome.
But that was a lovely presentation. Great partnership. Thank you for having me this evening. So I think you have the memo in the packet, so I can give a quick summary if that makes sense.
That would be great.
So I'm here tonight in partnership with Mr. Browninger, who couldn't be here this evening, because the Elmwood Elementary School is requesting the addition of 1.0 FTE, ABA paraprofessional, which we call paraprofessional level C, in order to meet the IEP needs present at the school, specific to students with intensive needs, related to the population of students as we now have it here in November. And as you guys know, we budget very early and lots of moving parts and lots of changes with kids and families and everything. And so at this time, we are requesting the addition of this FTE.
I wanted to highlight the budget piece that's in the memo, just for folks at home who may be not following along, but just that the cost is going to be supported by the grant, the IDEA grant this year, and then it will be, it looks like, offset by the circuit breaker in FY26. Is that?
Partially.
Partially.
I think that you can anticipate that the budget request coming forward would potentially include it in the future. I want to be honest and say the circuit breaker provides a proportion of reimbursement, but it isn't a total reimbursement. We are being more aggressive with our claiming for in-district expenses, and this is an excellent example of the return on investment you can get from circuit breaker for in-district costs, and this will certainly be included in our claim this spring.
Abby, could you remind me what circuit breaker money
Oh,
is?
Susan, that's a big question. I'll try my best.
I'm probably not the only one.
Yep, so broadly speaking, just like in your house, if the electricity exceeds the power of your circuit panel, you have a circuit breaker that assists in managing that load. Circuit breaker is the name that we use in Massachusetts for the mechanism the legislature developed to offset very high costs for students with disabilities. So circuit breaker is a term of art in the field, and essentially it allows, after a very rigorous claiming process, for a community to receive a reimbursement, a percent, 1 year in arrears of the expense. So we will claim this spring for expenses, and then the money will come in for the following year. Is that pretty accurate? I do
Yeah,
okay?
the only thing is it has to be over and above a threshold that is established for circuit breaker. So the first 38 or 40,000 the district owns, over and above that can be reimbursed up to 70%.
Was a part of that because of when you need to send, you have students that have to go out of district? My mind was somehow thinking that was
It's
involved.
not just that, it's, as Ms. Hanscom said, it's high cost.
Okay.
So it's quite frequent that paraprofessional with the expertise of an ABA paraprofessional will trigger the circuit breaker, and then additional services, and we claim down to like the minute of service. And so that's part of my job every June is to produce that claim, and then we hear over the summer what the amount is, and we plan for the following year. So it is an arrears reimbursement.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Hanscom.
You're welcome. I would just say that I just want to be thoughtful and say that I think this is a request that is made very thoughtfully by the faculty at Elmwood and is intended to both support individual students, but programming and staff as well.
Appreciate that. Question, I guess, for Susan, just because we're talking about the circuit breaker. My recollection was the year that the special education tuition jumped up so much, was there a change in the way that the circuit breaker, the threshold, I feel like was changed a little bit in the percentage?
The threshold changes every year,
Okay.
and the percentage that it is funded changes every year. It's all part of the state budget. So sometimes it can be a very low reimbursement percentage, and sometimes, they'll get us up to that 75. But you don't know until they pass.
And we have to spend the money before they,
And then you spend,
before we know what it is.
Yeah, so, well, we budget for so we know what we're receiving this year, and that is what we'll use as our offset next year. So we never budget until we know what that money is.
Thank you. Any other
Do we
questions?
anticipate any problems with hiring? this individual? They're highly specialized, they're highly sought after. across the
Hiring is
state?
better
Okay.
than it has been, and
Okay.
I am confident that if we have a position, we will find a skilled person. That has been our pattern recently, and that's a lovely improvement.
Well, I would move to approve the addition of a 1.0 level, level C paraprofessional for Elmwood.
Second.
Motion by Susan and a second by Jamie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much for
Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, then that moves us into the Hopkins Memory Book Coordinator.
Okay, so Mr. Cotter at the Hopkins School is looking for approval to add a $1,000 stipend into the budget. The Hopkins School has long had sort of a yearbook that they call their memory book. And when we had tech integration specialists, the elementary tech integration specialist would work with the kids to put that together. When we eliminated the elementary position, I think in FY '24, what happened was HPTO parents took on the role kind of on a voluntary basis, but there's too much to it, and so he's looking for a stipend so that a teacher in the building would be able to make that happen.
I have a question. I'm going to jump in. In terms of our stipends, is that stipend in line with other comparable stipends?
It is, and that's sort of why he had chosen that.
That was my hope. Any other questions? Is there somebody who would like to make a
I'll
motion?
move to approve the $1,000 stipend for the Hopkins Memory Book Coordinator.
Okay. Motion by Kyla.
Second.
Second by Susan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it is approved. Thank you for bringing that forward. And that moves us then into the superintendent's goals update.
Right, should be getting on that TV in a moment.
Is this where she says that she will eliminate 95% of the previous goals?
Yeah.
No, hers
yeah,
tend to
can-
grow, not.
I know.
Flip a switch, Bob. Thank you.
Met them all, maybe, already.
Maybe she has. Have you met them all already and you knew it?
Shaking the rest of you.
I think that you all have access to this document because I continue to update the same one over and over again, but I will reshare it with you. Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about the, oops, it's not up there. Oop, there we go. It's coming. Now it might do. It looks promising. Oh, well.
It did come through the share again for people to,
Where? Oh.
in the, did you get it? Your email should have the link for it.
Just go, there we go.
Oh, did it just come through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Takes longer to get to that end of the table.
Apparently.
One to the next.
All right, so the first goal is the one where we were talking about ELA and math curriculum. You may or may not know that last year we spent an awful lot of time taking a look at math scores and how the instruction was landing for kids who are very high performers, moderate performers, and low performers. And so what we did was we created a class called Math 6+ in each one of the teams at the middle school. And there are about 24 students in those classes, and those were the kids who were probably ranked in the 97th, 98th, and 99th percentile. And it may seem unusual that we have that many kids who are in those percentile ranges, but in fact, we have them. So in addition to that, we have had a math working group, and now we have an ELA working group. A lot of this really does have to do with the work that we're doing around MTSS, and so I'll start by talking about that dyslexia action plan. You have access to that, so you can click on it and you can see what the Hopkinton Public Schools have already achieved in that plan, what we're working on, and the things that we have not yet started. But this goal of mine is actually tied to that because what we're trying to do is to ensure that we are screening our kids very early on. They are doing computer-based measures so that we can really drill down and say, what is the problem? If kids aren't making a reading benchmark. So for example, if we are testing kids on things like CVC words, and we expect that they should be able to read, say, 40 of them in a minute, and they can read with accuracy 20 of them, what we realize is that they just don't have the phonics skills that, that automaticity about phonics. So they're reading only half of them, so it makes it a whole lot slower for them. So then we say we need to do a whole lot more phonics work. If we realize that phonics isn't the problem, but sort of fluency might be, what we'll do is we'll put kids on UFly and we'll have them reading and reading and reading and reading the same passages kind of over and over again to gain that kind of automaticity. So anyway, that's what you'll see in the Dyslexia Action Plan. The ELA group, I think is what we're talking about here now, yeah. We have people from the high school, we have central office administrators, we have all of our building principals, we have anybody affiliated with English language arts, and we have teachers at different grade levels. And we started together, and if you click on the link that you see in here, from our September 11th meeting, you'll see what we did. We drilled down into some data and we said, you know what this data is really telling us is that we have a couple of issues going on. One is we need to think about our kids who are on IEPs and not making growth. The second is that we want to look at our kids who are scoring between 490 and 499. The cutoff for proficiency in MCAS is 500, and so if you're 490 to 499, we think that those are places where kids have the aptitude, but somehow there may be an instructional component that's missing. And then what we're seeing with some of our higher achieving kids is that when they get a reading score that might be 80, the writing score can be down at like 56. And it's not, we don't believe, the physical act of writing, but rather it's that when you're doing that kind of reading, are you engaging in a meaning-making process? So you're reading one text, two texts, three texts, and kind of synthesizing that information. So it's more of a thinking issue than a writing issue. So those are the kinds of things that that group is working on. I want you to know that we have not abandoned the math while we're taking that new course configuration for a test drive this year. The math group met on September 25th and November 13th. We too are drilling down, and now this year the group is very proficient in data use, so we asked them just yesterday to bring their data and talk about what they're doing with it. And so we were really able to look at how they are compiling the data and then what's happening in terms of student instruction. And so if we have, say, 13 students in the middle school that we're watching very closely, after we try an intervention, we can put them back on STAR Math and see if that intervention is promoting growth or if it is not. In terms of differentiation and co-teaching, our teachers were at the middle school. We have co-teaching pairs. They went to the Accept Collaborative for some professional development work this summer with a woman whose name is Lisa Deeker. That's her area of expertise. She does co-teaching, and she figures out ways to make sure that they're using the 6 different co-teaching models and that they have a means to communicate even if they don't always have professional collaboration time. The admin team is doing middle school walkthroughs of math classrooms as well as the ELA classroom. We have a woman whose name is Jennifer St. John, and she's working directly with the entire group of math teachers to think about different ways to differentiate their instruction in our classrooms, because as we've said, even though we have taken the 97, 98, 99th percentile kids out, there's still a really big swath of learners, so that you have some kids who are struggling and some kids who have very, very high math skills. And so how do we make sure that within a single math classroom, all of the needs are being met? And then the last, on the professional development day, we did not have a picture of that in my slideshow, but Nicole Murray did a co-teaching PD entitled, Are We Co-Teaching or Taking Turns? Because sometimes we do have people who are both involved in the lesson, and one person says something and the other person says something else, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that co-teaching model is offering what we would call specially designed instruction. And then finally, STAR Record Book has been presented to all of the schools. The CBMs have been done K-5, and I think the teachers who are teaching students who have presented with CBM needs are, they've got an intervention in place now. We'll see how that goes. And then STAR was re-presented to all of the middle school departments early in the morning on November 5th.
I'm sorry, what's the CBM?
A computer-based measure. No, curriculum-based measures, I'm sorry. Yep. All right, so we can move to the next goal, which was kind of helping our kids grow socially, emotionally, and behaviorally, and to make sure that we are validating our kids' identities along the way. Most of this work is taking place at the secondary level. The Metro West Adolescent Health Survey, we should be getting that data very soon. Our pathways after graduation, we do have that data, and we should be able to synthesize that and make that information available to the community. We have a fellow. She is involved in a PhD program at Harvard. Her name is Alicia Williams. And part of her fellowship with us is going to be to assist Mr. Lebrad and me in the MyCap program at the high school. That started through a grant a couple of years ago. And we are thrilled to have Alicia working with us because she brings amazing talent, and she does it at the very, very low cost of free.
Free.
So, yes.
MyCap, review what that means again.
So it's my career in academic plan. So it's a structure that the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has rolled out and has strongly urged various school districts to take a look at.
Program is with the P?
I would say that, yeah.
Okay.
And is encouraging us to, encouraging districts to consider that as a structure for supporting students as they start to plan their post-secondary experiences.
Mr. Lebrad actually put a group of teachers together who got a lot of PD on this last year. And the sort of culminating activity was to analyze the things that are in place right now, even if they are not sort of collected under one umbrella at the high school. And we really are doing a lot of those things. It will just be nice to codify some of that. And the last thing that Mr. Lebrad reminds me of all the time is that this is really for every student.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of start your career trajectory planning when you're even in middle school. And, that becomes an iterative process. So kids keep changing that up as they go. And I know that that is something, Savannah, that never happened for you, so.
Oh, so it's not available to aging out students.
I'm done. I'm past that.
You're done.
She's past
We
that.
didn't help you with a career choice at all.
The good thing about what we found when the group of teachers that the superintendent was referencing found was that we have so many pieces of good things. So Savannah has definitely benefited from things
Yes.
from middle school onward. But what we're trying to do right now is make sure that everything has legs so that it will go on forever, won't be a one-off, and that we're doing it in the most efficient and effective way that we can.
Sounds good.
All right, the HSA, which is the Holistic Student Assessment, and that really helps us to see what kinds of SEL competencies our kids are coming in with. It's really not a deficit, but an asset-based model. And so we are looking to see, our kids able to self-regulate, do they have social interaction, interpersonal communication, are they able to assert themselves as needed? And so we did get that first round of administration completed in November, and our administrators will soon have that data, and that data does inform curriculum modifications, but it also helps our counselors to work with students who demonstrate individual needs.
What level is that given to?
From grade 4 on?
Yep.
4 to 11.
Yep.
We don't do it with the seniors because they won't be here for, the next time it's taken, you know what I mean?
took the HSA this year.
Seniors took it this year?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe the fall. Yeah,
Right.
they wouldn't take it in the spring.
And there isn't something comparable to the younger grades?
Yeah, it does the same kind of measuring.
Yeah, starting in 4th grade. You're talking about
Younger, yeah.
Yeah, no, so the HSA is not designed for any child under the 4th grade level.
Oh, that's too bad. It seems like self-regulation starts before 4th grade.
Oh, instructing along that absolutely begins far beyond. the
HSA
measurement of
measures.
it.
Yeah.
We
don't
can't
do.
measure it.
Not using this tool, we can't. All right, the cell phone protocols, it feels, at least to our administrators, and this is really just anecdotal right now, but they feel like it has been very successful. At the middle school, really, those kids are cell phone free all day. So that feels pretty good. And teachers are reporting that they are far more attentive in class.
Good.
I think you saw the CRI-OP in everyone's school improvement plan, so you know that that's there, and the work to ensure that, our teachers are implementing culturally responsive strategies, whether it's instructional or communicating with families. That's ongoing. And when we did our PD day, we asked people to kind of tie in the CRIOP as appropriate and to tie in MTSS, which is the multi-tiered system of support for kids. Very good news. At Black Print's recommendation, they had suggested that we should select a tool to vet our curriculum. We are still working on that, and we did get a $116,000 grant from Senator Spilka, and part of that will be used to train more people in the restorative practices. We do that through Suffolk University. We made a very good dent in it in past years, and this money just keeps sustaining that program, so more and more people continue to be trained. Jen Suker, still doing a great job with parent, family, and community outreach. She meets with a lot of families individually as they arrive and they need help navigating our school system. And very often, you know, it's Jen who's setting up meetings where there have to be translators or interpreters. Let's see. Yep, I think we already saw Abby here tonight, and I know that we've talked about the things that Jen does with her LPAC folks. Both of those groups had a really nice fall event this year, and I think we put that in a previous superintendent's report. We now have another subgroup who is identified as disproportionate. So one of the things that Mrs. Hanscom does is she works very hard to ensure that we are making corrections around that disproportionality. You know that last year we talked about the fact that we had a disproportionate number of white students identified with a specific learning disorder, namely dyslexia. We weren't sure if that was because of the screening that has been taking place here for a few years now. But now we also have an over-identification of Asian students in intensive special needs classrooms. And then the last one is about my blogs. Many of them do have to do with social, emotional learning and behavior and cultural proficiency, so you can click on those and take a look at them sort of at your leisure. We can move into goal number 3.
Where do you post your blogs?
Oh, they
emailed.
Yeah, we send them out an email, but they're also on the district website.
Okay.
So you can go back in, and when, there are some here that when you click on it, it will look like it doesn't match to the right date. It's because you have to scroll down.
Okay.
One of the things I would love to do is change that so that you could just go and get the title of them and just keep clicking on them, but right now it's just a running scroll, and that's the way the website is set up.
Well, I missed them in the email.
All right, goal number 3 is just continuing to address enrollment growth, building use and expansion, and just making sure that we are updating the community on those construction projects, thinking about how enrollment and academic and SEL needs of our schools can be met through some of those building processes. And so the first one is to work with the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, Mrs. Rothermick, and the Director of Facilities, Mr. Person, to continue to educate the community on the in-progress building projects. You saw tonight that Mrs. Rothermick brought you some information on that. Monitoring enrollment growth, we do that at, I don't know, maybe every 3rd meeting. We take a look at where we are with enrollment growth. It has, since the last time I talked to you about it, it's a little bit flat right now. The 5-year capital plan, you know that you vote on that, and you will vote on that only for FY26, but we keep carrying it out, and you know, we update it accordingly. We think about things like how much money has the town sort of authorized us to spend, and I use authorize in air quotes. And then we think about what are our needs just in terms of the buildings, because we want to make sure that we are keeping our physical plants up to date and making sure that they are safe to be inhabited by students and faculty. We want to make sure that our projects are on time and on budget. You can see that we're currently meeting that goal based on what Mrs. Rothermick shared tonight. Creating and pass a budget that carefully analyzes the needs for increased personnel based on enrollment, and you're going to start to see those presentations at our next meeting next week. Behind the scenes, the building principals and all of the directors have been working super hard to whittle those budgets down to the things that are need-to-haves. And then over 2 years' time, looking at grades 2 to 4 curricula. I don't know if this group is aware, but when we first started working with the MSBA and we submitted the educational plan for the new Elmwood School, now the Charles Wood School, one of the things that the MSBA really demanded was that because that building is going to be shifting, they wanted to make sure that we had new science and new social studies curriculum that the physical plant could really contribute to in ways that the current Elmwood School cannot. And you'll see that we have also built physical plants where we have spaces for one adjustment counselor per grade level, one assistant principal for grade level, and we're going to need to get there when we have 400 kids at a grade. So Mr. Lebrod is doing amazing work with a curriculum now called Children Discovering Justice, among other things, in social studies. And we also have a consultant working with us so that we are changing the science curriculum to really be hands-on, experiential, and inquiry-based. And so little by little, we'll be putting in a new unit and taking one out and then putting in a new one. But we don't want to overwhelm our faculty and staff by changing it wholesale all at once. You know, the finding is that it doesn't really work when you overwhelm people with entirely new curricula, leave them something they're comfortable with, stretch them, and then leave them something they're comfortable with. So that is the plan. All right, and then finally, the last goal was the one where I was kind of stretching myself in terms of leadership. Oops, I'm sorry. That's just more on, where am I here? Am I on, oh, sorry, goal 4. Yeah, I apologize. I skipped right over goal 4. So this is the one where we are thinking about the climate in the district. You know that we are now immersed in contract negotiations with the HTA, and pretty soon it will also be the cafeteria, the custodians, and the nurses. And so you want to make sure that you are working a very positive climate when you are going through a negotiation cycle, because sometimes that work can become very stressful. But also that district climate team was put into place a year ago, and this year we have 7 meetings set. We have already had our October and November meetings. We have some things that we're doing in place. For example, the teachers last year said it would be really nice to see the administration more frequently in our building, and so Mr. Lebrod and I are out in the buildings more frequently. I have a running list that you can take a look at of when I'm visiting buildings, and if I am meeting with paraprofessionals or teachers or nurses in those settings, you get to kind of see how that's playing out. And sometimes it's planned, and sometimes it's just super organic, which is, I think, really nice. We've had 2 meetings this year. The first one, we really talked about something that we wanted to leverage. And then the last one, which was just last Friday, we talked about someone who had worked in another district, did something along the lines of storying. And we are really encouraging our people to kind of highlight those things in our buildings that make Hopkinton, Hopkinton. And because we have a district climate team that goes all the way from Marathon School to the 18 to 22 program, what happens at the Marathon School isn't always known to someone who's at Hopkins or to someone who's at the high school. And we are thinking about ways to talk about the things that our kids carry as a result of something they've experienced, or just something amazing that's unique to Hopkinton. And so we're hoping that this is going to be a way for us to expose our culture as well as some of the very cool things that we do. I've already talked about kids' social, emotional, and behavioral needs. And I can present to you some of the climate team activities. I hope that we're going to start seeing some of those writing pieces come out of the work. And then, you know that in the summertime, we had our admin council 2-day retreat. The admin council meets regularly, and we can share with you some of the admin council agendas so that you can see maybe some of the team building things we do in that setting as well. And then finally, this is the last one. Where I talked about just stretching myself in leadership places. As you know, I'm chairing the board of directors at the Accept Collaborative this year. I can share with you all of those meeting agendas. And there's an awful lot of work that goes into, I think, budgeting there, as well as the transportation subcommittee. We are one of the primary users of Accept Transportation. And what we're trying to do is streamline that a little bit this year, because right now, the way the billing works at Accept is that, you know, if Susan, the van comes and picks you up and you, a single rider, there's a single rider fee. And then if it takes you 13 and a half miles, they take your 13 and a half miles and they charge us a, you know, per mileage fee for that. But every one of those riders has a unique bill. And it is overwhelming to the Accept Transportation billing team, and it's overwhelming when it comes into districts. So if we have, say, 40 riders through Accept, our people in central office are going through each one of those bills sort of with a fine-tooth comb. And it's not working great for districts, and it's not working great for Accept. So those are some of the things that we are hoping to bring to fruition. You'll be happy to know that transportation at Accept is still working at a profit, because that's helpful to all of the collaborative member districts. And of course, that's us. We are working with, I'm still on the MASS Professional Development Subcommittee. I am a member of the Tri-County Superintendents, and we are working on our concussion subcommittee. The next item on tonight's agenda is to look at that policy again, and our subcommittee has asked if this group would hold on voting on that policy till they match it up to the protocols and the things that they have in practice, just in case they want to further inform policy. So we'll talk about that in a moment. And then the last one is the district-wide crisis guide. We realized that our crisis guide, while it had been updated in dribs and drabs, really needed a good look. So I had an initial meeting with Mr. Bishop, Mr. Ghosh, Dr. Ghosh, and Mrs. DeBow, and the three of us got together, and I chose them because they had the most institutional memory about the way the crisis team and the crisis guide had worked here in Hopkinton. So they each took a portion of that. Everybody on the admin team was part of this process. Now we have 3 pieces of it that has had at least a first pass of revisions, lots of questions embedded in there, and I will meet again with them and we'll go through a revision process and then bring it back to the team and then bring it to the school safety task force. So that's where we are with all of that. And I don't know if you have questions about some of those things, but I think that gives you a little bit of an update on my work so far.
Are there questions?
Sorry, yes. I'm really interested to learn more about the climate team and the climate
sure.
survey.
Yeah.
Is there data that we can read?
Think, Jamie, that you can take a look. Oh, let me see. I thought that I had at some point. Oh, crisis is the one above. Oh, no wonder I'm not finding it. Yes, so the district climate team, there's a request to participate that you can take a look at. First meeting welcome. There's the running agenda here. And I think in that running agenda, you will be able to also click on the results of those surveys.
Okay, so the agenda, when I looked at the agenda, it looks more like notes, or is this are the notes taken in the agenda, or like who's the I? I can't tell.
Okay, so can we put this up on the screen? So in this last one, this one is a little bit confusing because when we had the previous meeting, which if you scroll down, you can see took place on October 11th. This looks more like a traditional agenda. We did review all of the survey data, so if you go in there, you would be able to see that survey data. Let me make that a little bit larger because if you're a person at home, you can't see this. You can go in and look at that survey data. And then we came up with some beliefs, like we need to focus on the good, thinking about the school improvement goals. Are there things that might be formal or informal that we want to play with there? How do people feel about their relationship with staff and with students? Do we model the SEL that we want? And are we sure that the adults in our school are modeling the SEL behaviors that we would like our kids to have? And then we talked a lot about growing school spirit. And we talked about theme days, and did we want them to be replaced with spirit days or things that surrounded things like Social Justice Day or an SEL day or vocabulary day or holiday days. And that was all the feedback that they had given to me. And then I had individual meetings with the principals And that's why you see this very long narrative right here, because that was sort of my feedback to them, which is what we read through when we were together last week. It kind of gave us sort of a historical view of where we had been, and then we got to talking about the storying and whether or not each building could start to promote the good. And in that process of promoting the good, make sure that we're able to see what happens in classrooms, what happens culturally, and really sort of celebrating ourselves.
When you look at these, last year you shared some results from like a climate, was it a climate survey that all the students did? So that the work of the climate group then is addressing those issues where they were low numbers.
Yes, what happened was, at the end of the year last year, the climate team got together and we said, okay, there are a lot of things in here, and some of them are things that we need to work on, but some of them aren't things that all the people at that table needed to work on. So for example, if someone said, I'd like to see the central office administrators in our buildings more frequently, that would be something that Jeff and I would undertake. And so we kind of divvied up that work, and so Jeff and I are in buildings more frequently. But we also said, there was some talk about taking these goals and divvying them up. So K to 5 would be one group, and 6 to 12 would be another group. And when we talked about them, we said, you know what, that kind of flies in the face of what we're trying to do. We're trying to come together as a district. And so that's when we thought about that storying piece, was, well, will it work? And so we're gonna take it for a little test drive and see what happens. And we would love to have students do it as well. Like, if you have kids at Hopkinton High School who would say, I would be able to write this piece about something that happened, it's Hopkinton unique, we would love to have you guys do that. If you would take that back to kids, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Because you probably have almost better insight than any of the grown-ups, truly. And most of you have, many of you have lived through the entire experience.
And I bet there are a bunch of students willing to do that. Because I know there's a lot of people who, because I think one of the only opportunities to kind of show the student voice is through student government, and that's a very limited amount of people. So I think opening the opportunity to the whole school would be very nice.
I know you have newspaper and lit mag, but this would be just a little bit different. We hope. Okay.
That's great.
I will jump on this thing.
All right, thank you. That then moves us into the 2025 to 2026 school year calendar. I don't know if people saw, we did receive one email on this today. I also did receive another email just requesting access to what the proposed calendar is, which is in the packet, so I did send that out. This is a first look at it for us this year. I would let Dr. Kavanaugh discuss it, but I also think that we don't have to pass this tonight. And in fact, there might be an argument why not to vote tonight. Go ahead.
We can, this isn't locked in, this
Correct.
calendar.
And that would be a, part of the discussion. I think that we can have a discussion about how we want to move forward, but we always put a motion on there, it's TBD, but we don't actually have to take any motion at all tonight. So, were you going to say something?
Yes, I have a controversial point of view. The kids don't get out of school until the end of June, correct? Around that. It's late.
It's interesting because we have Juneteenth now.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get out before.
Right. But my position is, why they could get out 2 weeks earlier if there weren't 2-week-long vacations.
So I think we should hold that thought. I'm not saying it's not weighing any evaluation on it until we
It's one of
hear
those
this piece.
Pennsylvania things.
It's not necessarily, but there is, I don't know if you want to talk at all about the historical context of how many times we've had calendar subcommittees, different opinions. That pieces of that have been explored and kind of what we want to do going forward.
Okay.
Sure. So I'll just take you back to May of 2021. In May of 2021, the school committee had said we need to have a calendar subcommittee. And so when we do that, only 2 school committee members could be on it, because otherwise you'd have a
A
quorum.
meeting, yeah.
And the school committee asked us to review the pros and cons of the current school calendar, survey faculty, families, and secondary students to think about the impact of the calendar on teaching, learning, and people's just personal lives. We had to conduct research on calendars that we used by other school districts. We determined if our school calendar would better serve faculty, children, and families if it was revised, or if it stayed exactly the same. And then we had to create, if it was recommended to revise the calendar, a new one on or before December 1st, 2021. And we would present that to the school committee. And then we would seek a formal vote of the school committee on the recommended calendar. So there were a whole bunch of people who got onto this committee. I was there, the former Assistant Superintendent Jen Parson, the Director of English Language Acquisition, Equity and Access, Jen Zucker, an Assistant Principal from the middle school, Assistant Principal from the high school, Amanda Fargiano as the Vice Chair of the school committee, Connor Zanini as a high school teacher, Jen Jordan as the Vice President of the HTA. We had 4 parents and we had 1 high school student. That committee met as a whole group on June 28th, August 5th, August 17th, October 19th, December 7th, and December 14th. And in between, we met as small groups. So the 3 small groups that we had created, one was to think about the calendar's impact on teaching and learning. And that was very interesting because we had a group of people who would say, why don't we just give kids, for example, the day off if they observe Diwali or Eid al-Fitr or Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or whatever. And the kids, I think, spoke very articulately about how even if you have the day off, there's something worrisome that's happening because you know that there are kids in there learning something and you're at home. And it's hard to observe your day. So we, kind of put that into our back pocket, and we said, okay, but what if we did things like canceled all, big quizzes or tests or those things on that day? And they said, But that then slows down teaching and learning, because if I'm not really going to present something new, then is it really a day of learning? So there was a lot of controversy around that. Anyway, the next one was to conduct a survey seeking feedback from families, students, and faculty. And what's super interesting is you can go on the DESE website, and DESE will tell you things about how people identify as, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, whatever, but they never tell you, ever, anywhere, what kinds of holidays people observe. So our survey asked, how, if there were holidays that people felt like they really needed to include in the school calendar that weren't currently there. And we, if we had only 4 people say something, we were like, well, we're not closing school for 4 people. But if we had a preponderance of people, and we did with Diwali, Lunar New Year, and Eid al-Fitr, very high numbers, we said, oh, that might be something we should consider. And then and that was even more so than some of the holidays or observances we already have. Like, we had more people say Diwali than like Good Friday, for example. Anyway, when we did that, we said, oh, but we can't miss that many days of school. Like, it might become a huge problem. And then we did an analysis of other districts' calendars. So I was just working with a girl at the high school who's writing a story about this because of just the curiosity of high school kids about how we got to this calendar. And she said, but in Medfield, they don't do Diwali. So we went to the DESE website. We said, well, how many kids are identifying as Asian? Because they put everybody under one big umbrella. And in Medfield, it's 3%, and in Hopkinton, it's like 33%. I said, see, that might be why that is. So we had a really nice conversation, but we understood how calendars reflect the people who live in a particular place. So after long deliberation, we got to a place where we said, okay, we could keep the calendar exactly as it exists. So people would still get Christmas, they'd get Easter, because the calendar is sort of built to make sure that Christmas is always a guaranteed time off, very Eurocentric. They'd still get Good Friday, they'd still get Rosh Hashanah, they'd get Yom Kippur, but the people who voted for things like Diwali, Eid al-Fitr, and Lunar New Year would not be considered. And people started to think, oh, I don't know how fair that feels. Then we said we could go in the opposite direction and remove every single non-state and non-federal holiday. And we noticed that Christmas Eve, December 24th, would not be a federal or a state holiday. So you'd be required to come to school on that day. And the same was true for Good Friday. And that also caused people some concern. So if we created that calendar of greater inclusivity, we said, what is that going to look like? So we looked at the 22-23 school year. That would be the first one that it impacted. And only, and the days that were off would be Diwali, Yom Kippur, and Rosh Hashanah, because Lunar New Year fell on a Sunday and Eid al-Fitr fell on a Saturday. So that added one day to the calendar. We thought, oh, it's not so terrible. And then we looked at 23-24, and Diwali, Rosh Hashanah, and Lunar New Year were all weekends, so that didn't add anything to the calendar. Then we looked at 24-25, and Yom Kippur and Eid al-Fitr were both weekends. And now this year, coming up 25-26, none of those days will land on a weekend, but we are back to starting at a very early August date in the 25-26 school year. The start for teachers is the 25th of August. So it didn't push out the end of school. People think that it pushes out the end of school, and it may be like by a day or maybe two, but I think the bigger culprit is snow days. And of course, now we observe Juneteenth. So sometimes things fall in a funny way, like you'll go to school on Friday, and then Saturday is the 17th, Sunday is the 18th, Monday is the 19th, and it's Juneteenth, so kids are coming on the 20th. So that one snow day will push things all the way out to the 20th, as opposed to letting our kids out of school on, say, for example, that Friday, which would have been the 16th, which is much earlier. Anyway, what I want to point out is the calendar subcommittee determined that they would make that recommendation to the school committee at the time, that we should go with a more inclusive, because it wasn't really adding days to the calendar, even though it felt to people like it was. One thing we could do now is we could look historically in the years before Juneteenth and imagine that we still did not have Juneteenth, and we could say, let's take a look at the last decade. What were the dates on which school ended? And I wonder if there would be great disparity. That might be a good exercise for this group. So if people think that it was the superintendent who made that recommendation, I write the report, but it was truly the calendar subcommittee that made that recommendation. And the vote was very close, and I know that there were people on the subcommittee who were disappointed in the way it played out. But one of the things we say to subcommittees in the beginning is that we are a body, and you may not get the outcome you want, but we will work together, and whatever is decided as this group, we put forth as the report of the whole group, even if it doesn't feel like what you wanted. So ultimately, that's what we got, and that came about, I believe, we actually didn't get there on December of 21, it was January of 22, I think, when it all played out. So that's it historically.
Do I understand it correctly that, let's just say we eliminated 5,
Oh, that would be a big difference.
okay?
Mhm.
The last day of school would be June 10th.
Well, that's not accurate. So
No.
if we eliminated all 5 in the 24-25 school year, you would not lose a day for Yom Kippur or Eid al-Fitr, because they both fall on weekends, so it would have been like 3 days earlier. If that makes sense.
So you would.
Oh,
school-
no, it would actually be 4 days earlier, because Good Friday would be gone as well. Because Good Friday's always Friday, so we didn't put it in our table.
I thought it was 5, I must have misread.
Oh,
Okay.
maybe it is, but you could be correct.
Okay, I thought, but
Yeah.
4 or 5, but
Regardless.
we just back up from the 17th,
Mhm.
however many days, right? And you're saying that the students were the ones who pushed back on saying, I'm Christian, okay, my kid I want to keep my kid home on Good Friday, okay, but on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we don't celebrate that, so I want to see him in school. But you're saying that the students were the ones who said, well, even if we observe that holiday and we get an excused day off,
Right.
we don't like that.
They did feel like it was challenging, because you're always thinking about
These were high school students or students?
High school students.
High school.
Yeah.
You always have
To be
work to
fair.
make up because you missed the class.
Yes, you're making up work and you're stressing out because someone's learning something you're not.
They stress out the same way if they are sick, you think?
Yes.
Let's ask the student at the table.
Yeah.
Really?
Being sick, I think, is personally, it takes like a huge toll on the amount of work I have because I'm not being taught it in person, so I have to do the homework as well as the in-class work by myself. So I think that's also the same thing probably with the people who observe the holidays, because it's not necessarily an excused absence when you have all the work to make up
Mhm.
still.
So the kids were kind of, they pushed back a little bit.
They did.
What did the teachers, what was their feedback?
So with Lunar New Year, one of the things
Sorry,
that.
when is lunar, when is that? Is
Yeah,
that
it
on
will
this-
usually come like January, February-ish.
Okay.
It's a moving date, so sometimes it lands on a
Okay.
weekend. The teachers also expressed that there were some holidays that they would like to see. So, for example, we do have more teachers in our district now that observe Diwali. We have some that would observe Eid al-Fitr, but we had no one who said that they would need Lunar New Year off. So what we do is, if it's a presidential election, we hold our PD day on the November presidential election day, because it's too crazy to have kids there. But when it's not presidential and there are far fewer people voting, if Lunar New Year is on a school day, we move the PD day to January or February to Lunar New Year. And then that way there, the kids still get to come to school and no teacher is missing a holiday. One piece, just in terms of that I'd like to add, is that we have done every few years a calendar subcommittee. The results are varying from one iteration to the next. Before I was on the school committee, I served as a community member on a calendar subcommittee. And it brings out passion for people who don't want particular days or want it one way or another. The one thing that I recall very vividly, and it came as a result of some changes that were presented the prior school year calendar, was that the families who observed, the Jewish students that were observing Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, felt very strongly that that was a hardship because those holidays fall so early in the year in September, and that it's difficult for kids to be pulled out and miss a day that's in school where they're losing instruction at the beginning of the year. That, just for context. The other piece, historically, in terms of looking at kind of all different sides, there was a point in time when my kids were young that we did have a half day on Christmas Eve. I think that's unpopular among many different people who celebrate Christmas. I happen to celebrate Christmas. I actually really liked when my kids were in school. That's part of Christmas Eve. Well, just because there's, a lot that needs to be done around holidays as adults for whatever holiday you celebrate. So that, and then, it definitely, at the time that this decision was made, it came from the subcommittee to the school committee. I would say it was incredibly divisive in the community. We had a lot of, I would like to say fan mail, but it wasn't all fan mail, from people with all different types of views.
So I assume there's
feedback.
there's two camps, right? We want the kids out earlier and get rid of some of these holidays, right?
I'd
And
say
then
there's more than
another-
two camps, but yeah.
For the most part,
Yeah,
okay.
those are the-
And then
yeah.
another group that says these are important, let's keep them, no one loses any schooling, and no matter what decision is made, half of the group is gonna be upset.
Half, yes, that is it in a
So-
nutshell.
So whether, if it.
Slightly under.
Yeah, what's the third group?
The other group have been people who have proposed other measures to alter our calendars. So things like looking at that first week of school, then some of it is contractual, where the teachers go Monday and Tuesday, the students go Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday's a day off, looking at gaining days in that period. Or one thing that was discussed at one point was looking at I think it was the February break, and making it not a full week, making it a longer weekend. I think some Rhode Island schools have gone that way, but then.
Connecticut has gotten rid of it.
Okay, so there are a lot of different options to achieve different goals in
I'm not expressing it.
Is this a New England thing to take 2 weeks off during the school year?
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
I
in New
believe the
Jersey.
historical thing was to save heating costs in the school in February. Was a very big, long time ago.
Because I know we,
We still need to keep the pipes from freezing.
Yes.
back in the day when I taught in Pennsylvania, the kids were out like May 31st.
But when did you start too, did you?
We started at the end of August,
Okay.
but we
I
didn't.
know a lot of kids start at the beginning of August and get out.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be clear, the administration is happy to come to school on any day. I mean, it's really this body that sets that calendar with input from your community. I just think a calendar is reflective of its
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that we taught this week.
So I imagine if we were to take those 2 weeks away of vacation, the community would come after me with hatchets.
I feel like we'd get an
Letters.
Letters. Like, which letters in the alphabet would they come after me with?
A red A.
A red A. Okay.
I feel like we've got two things that we're looking at. One is the 25-26 calendar, that we do have a timeline that we do have to, I would recommend again that we not approve this tonight, because I feel like there's a lot of things out there. But the other piece is I feel like we're also looking ahead to beyond 25-26. It would perhaps make sense to convene a calendar subcommittee that starts well in advance at the beginning of the next school year.
Do we have this presentation for subsequent years?
So subsequent years, I mean. if
I just
we
didn't know
did a-
if there's one already in existence that just wasn't included in the packet.
It wouldn't matter if it was or not. We could scrap it and do whatever.
No, I just was
Maybe.
curious to look at to see which,
Gotcha.
if they fell on
Where they
Saturdays or Sundays, and so is it a 1-for-1 with snow days? One snow day
Yes.
equals one extra day, so
Right.
5 snow days is 5, does it ever get capped, or could we be in school in mid-July?
No, it is only capped if you get to June 30th, because the teacher contract,
Okay.
doesn't allow people to go into the next year.
So for
probably do
20,
the same thing
so
in
for
New Jersey. You go to school
24,
day,
25,
snows in. So at Easter, you got it.
if there is 2 snow days, okay, well, Juneteenth
Yeah.
falls on a Saturday, okay.
Are you, I'm sorry, I missed the part of what you said. Then Juneteenth in 2026?
Or 26, sorry, yeah, 25, 26, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
This
right.
year,
So
the
is
last
it-
day should be
Is that
June
Friday?
17, correct?
So it should actually be June 18th, because the one change that has to be reflected in here is the 183rd teacher day for professional development.
I mean, 24, 25.
Oh, I'm
So
Yeah, yeah.
in this calendar that we're looking at then, is Juneteenth one of those days that if the date falls on a Saturday, like it would in, not the
It's observed
26th or
on a-
27th, is it observed then on a weekday?
I believe so.
Okay.
Does it bump to the Monday or just Friday or Monday?
I think if it's Sunday, it goes to Monday. If it's Saturday,
Saturday
it
to
goes to
Friday.
Friday. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Thoughts from people on how we want to proceed, both with this calendar and then with subsequent calendars, in terms of an appetite for creating a subcommittee for subsequent years?
When was the last one, 4 or 5 years ago?
It was 2021,
21,
we
did you say?
reviewed in
Started
22.
in May of 21,
Yeah,
yeah, and
probably
we
a good
finished in
idea to-
January of 22.
To do that again?
And then do we want to, I think we should hold on this until at least
Yeah.
another meeting to give it.
Yeah,
some
we
more.
can certainly hold. What are we considering would change? Like, are we just looking to receive more feedback? Are we just looking to marinate on the calendar ourselves?
I would say both. My fear of making a decision tonight is we've received one email on it. I think probably because we've discussed it here in public, it's going to become more of a discussion.
I mean,
Piece and-
Already
anecdotally,
been a discussion.
yeah, I've had people talk to me about it,
I
one that lives at my house.
Your
Me too. That I did hear.
yeah, I have as well, and I've heard equally passionate things on
Yeah.
multiple things.
Well, I think it'd be good to do another subcommittee, and if we get the same results we did 4 years ago, it's probably, okay, this is just how it is,
Yep.
but maybe the subcommittee comes up with some findings that can steer the decision one way or the other, or we could be right back where we are, which my guess is where we'll be, with kind of a
Possibly.
town divided, with some people want this, some people want that, and there's another smaller group that's maybe in the middle, but
Or maybe somebody's got an out-of-the-box solution that's going to,
Like Susan.
yeah, Susan already proposed it.
I don't think people can direct their email
Mid-Atlantic
directly to her.
plan.
Yeah.
Are you, any thoughts in terms?
It sounds fine to
Letting
hold,
it
yeah,
marinate
to,
to-
yeah, so we'll just marinate.
All right. Then that brings us into the athletic concussion policy.
Okay, so that is the one, I know we had I think this is our second reading. And I think that I met with Ricky Andrade, our athletic director, Amanda Major, who is the trainer, Mr. Bishop, Sarah Patterson, who is the head nurse at the high school. And they took a look at our policy, but they also take a look at the protocol, what we would call the concussion plan. So it's really kind of a protocol document. And Amanda, who is the trainer, is sort of very well versed in this, and she spends a lot of time because she is the person who lets kids who have concussions either get back into play or not. And she's looked at the policies and the procedure documents from many districts. So she would like to spend more time looking at the procedure document, which is really the one that the school administration has sort of control over. You have the control over the policy. But they're wondering if you'll hold on this so that they might inform the policy, and I would recommend that that's a good.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah. They are people in the know.
I'm good with that.
Okay. So we'll just table that one.
Okay, that's great.
Thank
That
you.
moves us then into items by consensus.
All right, as superintendent, I recommend the approval of the items by consensus as outlined in your agenda.
I'd like to pull the minutes. I have a couple things.
Okay.
Which
So that's
is
item
that, that's
H.
H?
Yeah, item H.
10:24 minutes. Okay, so is there somebody that would like to make a motion for the items by consensus with the exception of item H?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
so motion by Susan, a second by Jamie. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then would you like to discuss the item H?
Yeah, so is that something we should discuss here or on the side or?
So I think that we should discuss that here.
Okay. So I really appreciate the detail level. There were a few typos, unfortunately, and I just, as a document, I'd rather us fix that. And then on my brief review, I felt like some of the MCAS report data that Mr. LeBrod prepared so diligently, we didn't catch all of it. And so those were the things that stuck out to me on reading through it. We have information on the high achievement notes, but nothing about the needs that were presented, which I think it's important to highlight the opportunities as well as the wins. And those were the specific things that I noticed in my brief review.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on the 24th that you want to share or discuss? All right, so we can send that feedback on to Georgette, and we can look at them again at the next meeting. All right, so with that, I would seek a motion to enter into executive session. If somebody would like to read that entire, all of A and B under executive session.
I move to enter into executive session to comply with or act under the authority of MGL Chapter 30A, 21, parenthesis A, parenthesis 2, for the purpose of discussing strategy concerning collective bargaining with the Hopkinton Teachers Association, because having the discussion in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the school committee's bargaining position, and to comply with or act under the authority MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20A3, specific to the review of executive session minutes for the meetings of May 16th, 2024, June 13th, 2024, July 11th, 2024, August 22nd, 2024, and October 24th, 2024, and to adjourn the meeting in executive session.
Thank you. So motion by Jamie,
I'll second.
second by Kyla. We'll do a roll call since we're going into executive session, starting with you, Kyla.
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
I am also a yes. We are entering into executive session at 8:58. And just a reminder for folks watching us at home that our next meeting is next Thursday, November 21st, here at HCAM, and then we'll have another meeting on December 5th. But also for folks at home, there is a special town meeting on Monday, the 18th at 7 p.m.
Please attend.
Please attend. All right, thank you all. Have a good night.
We could just add Saturday and Sunday class, we'll be done in 2 months.
There's a children's book that talks about the value of doing that.